You're listening to Active Vegetarian, episode 78.
My name is Susanna.
And I'm Nikki.
We are from Active Vegetarian.
And we are active vegetarians.
We are. And today's topic is going to be plant-based protein.
Whenever it comes to a plant-based diet, obviously protein is the first thing, usually one of the first things that is mentioned, asked, inquired about.
Let me clarify. What's happening with today's podcast is actually we receive questions from you guys, which we really appreciate, and they might come from Facebook, Instagram message, or directly to our inbox. And a lot of these questions we answer directly. However, if there is one question that keeps repeating, it's about plant-based proteins. It could be different ways to ask about plant-based proteins, and today's we decided to take the three most common questions we get and answer them here on the podcast.
So we're going to be talking about plant-based protein sources. We're going to be talking about our take on meat substitutes as well as plant-based protein powders.
Okay, so what was the first question we received?
First question.
Clearing your throat.
Yes, I'm getting ready, folks. Should I put like an accent into it?
Yes, go for it. We're sure.
Oh, I don't know. No, I might insult some people out there. Let's not.
Put your accent.
Well, what are some good plant-based proteins? Scratch that. What are some good plant-based proteins? I'm thinking about going vegan.
You're thinking about going vegan? That's awesome. Awesome. Congratulations and thank you, because honestly, this is one of the best things you can do, not only for your health, but also for the environment and for the animals. So great on you.
It's amazing.
Yes. Question answered. No. Let's continue. So you're thinking about this, and I totally understand that there's some questions you might be having when it comes to making sure you're getting enough nutrients from a plant-based diet.
I think enough is the biggest thing, right? People want to know what are some good sources, because we associate automatically, because of media and marketing and everything, meat equals protein, milk equals protein. But I think it takes a long time to start to look at plant-based foods and be like, that's protein, and start to really see that. So really, I think with answering this question, we want to help give you those visuals where you can look at the sources. I'm not going to give you any teasers yet, spoilers, but you can start to look at them and then know, and it will come to you and be like, yeah, that's a great source. I remember Nikki and Zeus said this is a good source of protein.
Perfect. So with that said, we broke it down to basically categories, and we'll give you some ideas of where to get the protein from. So number one is vegetables, because as a plant-based eater, majority of your food you eat through the day should be fruits and vegetables. So vegetables, where do we get protein from vegetables? So number one would be green leafy vegetables. So things like spinach. About a cup of cooked spinach has over 5 grams of protein. I know you might think, well, that's not enough when I compare it to a big steak. But when you compare the calorie density, consider a big steak to 1 cup of cooked spinach. 1 cup of cooked spinach is going to have definitely less calories than your big steak. So you will have to be eating more in order to get your protein, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, and a lot of our listeners, who have been with us for a while, they know that we talk about the abundance of plant-based eating and how wonderful it can be, especially if you like food. You can eat an abundant amount of food. So anybody who's new and listening to us, thanks for joining us for one. But our thing is that, like, yes, you need to eat a variety and an abundance of plant-based, so whole plant-based unprocessed foods, and you're gonna ensure that you will get the nutrients, the proteins, the iron, everything else that you need.
So spinach, kale, really any green leafy vegetables are wonderful. Mushrooms are another great way to get your protein in. Recently we did this what would you call it, a workshop for a group of people, and we were cooking, and we were in a kitchen for 3 hours making a plant-based feast, and our main meal was a stuffed portobello mushroom, and when we broke it down, that meal had 24 grams of protein. And so mushrooms, include those into your diet as well. Sweet potato, so about a cup or a medium sweet potato has around 4 grams of protein. So when you put it all together, when you create a beautiful meal full of beautiful vegetables, you're gonna make sure that you're getting enough. Next thing is fruit. we don't often think of fruit as including or adding protein into our diet, but things like avocado, yes, avocado is a fruit, has one medium avocado has about 4 grams of protein. Even berries have protein in it. So blackberries, blueberries, so making a big smoothie that includes berries and includes avocado and maybe some spinach or kale, again, you're making sure you're getting enough protein.
And I think like one that we always go to, especially in summertime, is melon. So any type of melon is a great source for so many nutrients, and especially if you can find ones, watermelon especially, with seeds in it, and to consume the seeds, because they are what contain a lot of the protein content.
Yeah, there's been lately companies who are actually making protein powders, and we are going to be talking about it later on, but who are making protein powders made out of watermelon seeds. So yeah, definitely consume them if you can, rather in a whole form than powdered form.
As well as, like, I'm just going to pitch a company here, but Go Raw also has sprouted watermelon seeds that are great for salad toppers and that too. So you can get them in other sources than chewing the black ones right straight out of the watermelon.
So next thing is dried fruit. Again, how often do we think of fruit or dry fruit as being source of protein? But one of our favorite go-to protein sources is goji berries.
Yes.
Amazing, you guys.
So much protein. Like, this is like, yeah, this would be our go-to, especially yours. You love goji berries and you put it on everything. But how much is in 1 cup?
Let's say one cup of goji berries has over 15 grams of protein. I know that you're probably not
Don't
going
eat
to
1 cup at once.
I totally would do it because I love goji berries and the nutritional benefits in goji berries. They're superfood, But sprinkling even a handful on top of your salad or putting it in your smoothie or just even snacking on them, amazing. Another one is mulberries. Yeah, I know that those might sound new to you. Like, what is goji berry? What is mulberry? But yes, as a plant-based eater, you're adding new foods in. You might not be eating meat, dairy, eggs, and such stuff, but you're going to be bringing more different foods in. And these type of foods are definitely worthwhile checking out. So mulberries, goji berries, and golden berries, which are, if you've never tried those before, they're pretty sour. Sometimes they're called sour berries. But 1 cup of them has 12 grams of protein.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's just dried fruit sources that we're looking at. So you can see how when we say you make a salad, you're adding that spinach in there, maybe you put some mushrooms, you top it with some goji berries, it all starts to add up. So when you're having that variety, you are getting enough. And the beautiful thing about eating, I don't feel like I need to sell plant-based eating, but we're so passionate about it. But the beautiful thing about eating plant-based is not only are you getting the protein sources that we're talking about specifically today, there's so many other vitamins, minerals, and everything else that you're getting with these foods that you're consuming.
And they come directly from nature. They are not added to your food
fortified,
chemically.
Yes.
All right, next one is algaes. Again, it's one of those things that we don't really think about eating. I think most people don't.
What is algae? I'm gonna try to be that listener and plug in and ask those questions that might be coming out there.
Algae is basically a vegetable you can find in waters. So think about seaweed. Is an algae. You can find it in cold waters, or you can find it in like spring waters. Not spring waters. Cold waters. It's I'm trying to find it English. Is it a cold water? You call it
cold water?
Well, you think of seawater, ocean
cold
water.
It's cold water. Okay. I believe it's cold water.
So basically, it's
correct
not
us if we're wrong.
Salt
please.
water. You find it in lakes. So these ones are spirulina and chlorella. Amazing sources of protein, and you have to find them from clean sources. So always make sure that the products you're buying, and these could be found either in powdered form or a tablet form, because as you can imagine, they are an algae, so they come from the bottom of a lake or bottom of the ocean. They might smell a little fishy.
They might.
They
do. Most of them do.
It is an acquired taste, but if you find them in tablet forms to maybe start with, that might be a better option. But amazing source of protein. 1 tablespoon has around 4 grams of protein, and again, putting it into your smoothies, or if you have the tablets, just take a handful of them, and you're getting some source of protein from there, amongst other things like B12. and iron and all kinds of other minerals and vitamins to go along with that.
I think you sold algae pretty good.
All right. Then they need to be sold.
Oh, they do.
Because at the beginning, it might be a little bit challenging.
I like that at the beginning. I think at the beginning, but you do, you get used to it after a while, after consuming it for a while.
Nuts and seeds are another one. And I think that's a common one. People know that nuts and seeds have protein in them. But something I would like to say about this whole group of foods is that you're best to eat them sprouted. And if not sprouted, at least soaked.
I'm going to be that one asking the question.
Okay.
What is sprouted? What do you mean by sprouted?
Okay, so sprouted nuts and seeds, and actually even further going with legumes like lentils, beans, and such, are definitely easier to digest. And when it comes to anything, when we are eating anything, it's not just the food we are eating, but it's the digestion that is super important. If we don't digest food properly, we cannot get the nutrients from it. So you can be eating the best type of foods. You can be eating 150 grams of protein per day, but if your digestion doesn't work properly, if you're not able to absorb the nutrients from the food you eat, you're basically wasting it. Right?
We have some other podcasts where we got a little bit more in depth on gut health and everything,
Yes.
I believe. It was a pretty recent one. So we can also link that into this post as well.
So sprouting and soaking is something that you can easily do at home. Again, I don't want to go into deep depths about it because we have sources online, and we also talked about it in other podcasts, but you can purchase sprouted seeds. Definitely it's good to invest into it or do it at home yourself, and you're going to be getting more nutrients from it. But some of the highest nutrient dense, protein dense seeds are chia seeds. They have half cup, has about 12 grams of protein. Hemp seeds are amazing. I love hemp seeds. I sprinkle them pretty much on anything I eat because they're adding your nutrients into it. And those two, you do not actually have to sprout. So they're easy to just eat,
consume
just as they are. Flax seeds are another great one. If you ground flax seeds and sprinkle them on your cereal, or again put them in your smoothie, salad, they're a great source of protein. Sunflower seeds, and then any nuts. But if it comes to nuts, please make sure that you soak them and preferably sprout them as well. Okay, legumes are again common for people to include into their plant-based diet. I again say sprout them or at least soak them before eating.
And I think anybody, because this is referencing somebody who's saying I'm thinking about going vegan, and so if you're just beginning, personally my preference was to start with like smaller, like the lentils, like you're saying, because it's easier to digest than going straight into like a lot of chickpea based sources and different things like that. I find they're a little bit heavy, and even to this day I do. So I think again it comes down to your digestion, how well it works for you, and in finding those sources that you enjoy to consume.
For sure, Nick. And I think that again with the legumes, if digestion is problematic, or if you're getting gas, indigestion and stuff, try sprouting them, try soaking them, and you will find that it definitely helps. Lentils, 1 cup of lentils has 18 grams of protein. Would you believe that? And 1 cup of lentils is not that difficult to eat.
A bowl of dal, like, which is like an Indian stew, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's very healthy, and there you go.
And it's easy to cook some lentils or cook some beans and just have them in a fridge and just sprinkle them again put them into your salads, put them in your soups. Sometimes you can even put them in your dressings and just blend them, and they create a beautiful creamy dressing. So great way to get your protein in. Moving on, what else do we have? Is that it? I think so.
I think that's it.
Those are our main sources of protein. So let's look at another question we got when it comes to protein.
Okay, I'm not going to do the accent this time.
All right.
So next question. What are your favorite plant-based meat substitutes?
Ooh, yes, that's a big one, because with these companies coming up with these plant-based burgers and plant-based cheeses and all kinds of vegan stuff, we actually don't eat it. Hopefully we don't disappoint you guys when we say we don't eat them, because we honestly consider them to be highly processed foods.
And here's the thing, like with 20 years experience of doing this, these things weren't available when we were making choices before.
Tofu was, I think, the only one. Tofu and seitan was the only thing on the market back then, and they were hard to get, I remember.
So yeah, we've lived most of our life without needing them, so we don't feel the need for them now. I think personally, and I think you can agree with this too, Zeus, is that it's a great transitional food. We understand that, but if you're basing your diet solely on that, I feel like, and this is my personal opinion, it can lead to malnutrition possibly, and it gives it that, how can I put it? It gives the, I guess, plant-based a bad rep, because that's not done right. It's not done right. When we talked about having an abundant amount of foods and like a variety of fruits, vegetables, legumes, everything we just listed as sources, if you're eating that way, you are going to be thriving as a plant-based eater. However, if you're basing it on all of these alternatives and substitutes that are extremely highly processed and lack the nutrients, then you're not going to be thriving, and you're going to be asking those questions of, you know, why am I low in iron? Why am I low in all of these other things?
The thing is about these products is that they have a lot of chemicals in them. In order for them to, basically in order to create a mock protein source, like that tastes and looks like meat, you have to use a lot of processing in order to do it. And that type of processing strips the food off of its nutrients. So you have to then add things to it in order to make it taste decent, and all these chemicals get stored in your body, and you're basically creating a toxic waste in your body. So like Nikki was saying, you're not going to thrive on this type of food. So use it as a transitional food if you need to, but try to get away from it and use it as a once in a while type of food. If you really crave that type of food, have it once a week, and then just slowly, you know, phase off of this type of food. Because honestly, as a plant-based eater, you can do so much better. I find that a lot of people who are concerned about the animals go this route. They eat
because it's ethical reasons. Yes.
Ethical reasons. They are not doing it maybe for their health, so they are eating a lot of processed foods. But honestly, you can do so much better than that. You can help the animals, you can help the planet,
yourself.
help
I think that's what it comes down to.
Because how are you going to help the animals if you're not healthy yourself, right? So feed yourself with the sources we were just mentioning, with those beautiful fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and legumes. Did we answer that question? I hope so. We have one more question. When it comes to protein and plant-based eating. What is the question?
What is your favorite plant-based protein powder?
Plant-based protein powders. You know, again, it comes down to eating as much nutrients, or getting as much nutrients from a whole foods rather than relying on supplements. But with that said, there is a time and space for protein powders, especially if you are an athlete. If you live an active lifestyle, you might have to supplement. And for that reason, there is few supplements, few protein powders that we include into our diet. I remember back 20 years ago, when you went into a nutritional store or health food store and you were looking for a plant-based protein powder, there was one on the shelf back then.
And it was 3 times the price of what it is sold today.
Yes. Today, when you go into the store, there is dozens of them. Unfortunately, I have to say that when you look at the ingredients, a lot of them, again, are highly processed products that lack the nutritional value that you really need.
There's few really good quality ones that you can source and you can find. And I think, unfortunately, there's some really good ones in other parts of the world. So the UK and places like that, I think there's some better ones. We can't get them here in Canada because they won't ship or send them. But I think just looking around and doing your research wherever you live and see what the sources are. And it comes back to what we've always said before in other podcast articles, whatever it might be, is that checking the ingredients is just reading the ingredients, making sure that it's everything you can pronounce and that it's things that you can recognize, and it's a pretty short list of ingredients if you can find that,
because it doesn't have to have, you know, tons of additives. Preferably find some protein powder that is raw. And one of the best protein sources is going to be hemp. And hemp protein powder does not require heat processing. So often you can find them raw. So a lot of the good stuff hasn't been destroyed, because believe it or not, protein powders, doesn't matter whether they're vegan or non-vegan, they're one of the most processed foods out there. Think about it. Like, you're creating a powder out of something. What kind of processing has to go in it? What do you have to do? What do these companies have to do
Put it in a blender and blend it? No, I'm just kidding.
Not so much, because then they have to, dissolve. They have to be smooth. Hemp protein does not require any heat processing. It's basically just ground up hemp seeds. It's a leftover from making hemp oil. So, you're not wasting the product. You're using it. You can
utilizing all the parts
utilizing it. It is fairly mild tasting, so you can add it to smoothies. You can add it. We sometimes add it to our dressings, salad dressings. What else? You can make bars from it, like energy bars.
We also use it in, actually, it was one of Brendan Brazier's recovery drinks, where it's used in a recovery drink, and it's on our site too, and it's great. And it's just like a couple tablespoons of the hemp protein you add into this drink.
Right.
So different things. So that's more of a liquid recovery drink. It's not necessarily a smoothie. So many different ways, and not just like hemp protein. I think the next sources would be, you were talking about it earlier, I think, was watermelon, or maybe we were just discussing it. Anyways, watermelon seed protein, you can get pumpkin seed protein.
Yes. And as Nikki is mentioning, they're just one type of protein, right? Like, you're not mixing all kinds of stuff together. Sure, you can create one at home where you mix, you're making a smoothie, you can put a tablespoon of hemp protein, you can put a tablespoon of pumpkin seed protein to get a different types of amino acids into that blend. But stick with something super simple if you're buying a protein supplement.
Now, I think this is difficult for people transitioning or beginners, or that do like more of a sweet, different flavor, because it took me a long time to get used to hemp proteins, especially because it was very hempy
tasting.
So I have to be in the mood, and it has to be the right type of hemp protein. When it's a good hemp protein, I really enjoy it. So I think just shuffling through, trying different ones as well, and just allowing yourself some time to get used to it. And if you're not used to it, then it's okay to find some flavored protein powders out there that are plant-based. And one of our, I guess, the cleanest one that we've ever sourced or found right now, this fluffy in my face here, the cleanest one that I've found so far to date is Epic Protein from a company called Sprouted Living. So they have 4 different varieties. They have original, chocolate maca, vanilla lucuma, am I saying it right? And green kingdom. So each of these contain, so I guess it'd be a serving in each of them.
I think it's 2 scoops.
Is 26 grams of protein. And now this protein from these, so we were talking about hemp and all that being just a single based protein source. Now this one's obviously a combination because it is a little more processed. So it's a combination of yellow pea, sunflower seed, pumpkin seed, sacha inchi, which is it's a seed, is it not?
I believe it's a seed, yes.
And cranberry seed. Yeah. So you can see, like, they're still clean ingredients. There's just more of them. Maybe it's a little bit more processed. And then there's, I think, some natural flavoring and that added to it with that as well, to give it the chocolate or whatever flavor that might be. And the Green Kingdom has some greens powder in with it as well, or kale or something. I don't recall exactly.
So it's called Epic by Sprouted Living. And again, we are in Canada, so we cannot really get too many different varieties maybe you might find in the place where you live. So just go into a store and really read the ingredients. That's the best thing that we can say. Stay away from highly processed protein powders that have tons of ingredients that you cannot pronounce. Honestly, if you're reading it and you cannot pronounce it, it's probably not good for you. All right, hopefully we answered some of those questions you have about plant-based protein. We gave you some suggestions of how you can make sure that you get enough. But honestly, if there is one big lesson, just don't obsess about protein. Just make sure you eat variety of fresh, whole foods.
And if you yourself have questions that you want to ask us, please leave a comment, email us, send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, whatever method you want to reach out to us. I think we have it plastered everywhere of how you can connect with us. So please do. We would love to hear from you, and we would love to answer any questions you have about plant-based eating, nutrition, lifestyle, us, whatever you want. Do we have a dog? Do I like dogs? Ask away.
Ask anything. Thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate it. And until next time, live healthy and be well.
Little Rusty, we're back in the game though. Podcast.
We were living in the hole. We were living in the hole. Writing a new book. And we are a little rusty on this podcast. But we are back in the game. And today our topic is protein. Protein.
Plant-based protein.
How do you get protein and build muscles?